It's been less than a week since coalition forces started the military operation in Libya, and the Republicans, like former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and Newt Gingrich, are all over President Obama. Gingrich first blamed him for not imposing a no-fly zone. Then he turned around and blamed him for imposing one. So you know what happened next? Newt flipped again. He says now we have to see the mission through. That's 3 flip-flops. But guess who he blamed for all of his waffling? Oh, you guessed it. You got it right. Of course, President Obama. He tried to explain all this waffling yesterday with this tweet. Here's Newt's tweet. Given choice, use allies, not Americans. After Obama, March 3rd says Gaddafi has to go. Make sure he goes. Obama changed the choice. It's impossible to understand those tweets when it's under 140 characters. But here's what I got out of that. It was Obama's fault. Okay, since he couldn't explain it in a tweet, he went to Facebook writing this. On March 3rd, President Obama said publicly it's time for Gaddafi to go. Prior to this statement, there were options to be indirect and subtle to achieve this result without United States military forces. The president, however, took those options off the table with his public statement. After March 3rd, anything short of a successful public campaign for regime change would have been seen as a defeat for the United States. Obama made me do it. You see, I wouldn't have flip-flopped all those times if it weren't for Obama. But look, here's my real question. Where does the right wing even get the audacity to talk about foreign policy and wars in the Middle East? And to criticize this president because he's moving too slow? Do you know how long they took in Iraq and Afghanistan? Remember back when President Bush was floundering around in Iraq? And he'd already been there for over 3 years. Not 3 days, not 3 weeks, 3 years. And we were told we just had to wait and give him time to succeed.
We will stay the course. We will complete the job in Iraq.
The second thing you do is you stay the course.
It's absolutely essential that we stay the course.
Most Americans believe still that we have to stay the course.
We're going to stay the course in Iraq. And that's why when we say something in Iraq, we're going to do it.
So we had to stay the course back then. It's been 8 years in Iraq. It's been 10 years and counting in Afghanistan. But with Libya, Obama didn't even get a week. These guys were the same stay the course guys. 6 days later, they're in mid-panic. They're like, oh my God, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's not going to work. Let's panic. Look, the Bush administration created a disaster in Iraq. But one of the main guys responsible for it, Donald Rumsfeld, had the gall to criticize President Obama's policy in Libya.
If you're going to put Americans at risk militarily, it seems to me you have to have clarity in what you're doing and be willing to do it in full.
Are you kidding me? Clarity? Clarity? This is the guy who had no plan for the occupation. Do you know that they had 4 slides for going into Baghdad? And General Franks at the time presented it. And the 4th slide was occupation. After they get into Baghdad, occupation. You know what it had? It had 3 letters on it. TBD. To be determined. Now that guy who organized that is talking about clarity? And remember, that's the same guy who, when they said, hey, look, there's no link between Iraq and the WMDs and the terrorists, there's nothing of the sort. He gave this nonsense response.
As we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Clarity? Clarity. He's talking about clarity? You gotta be kidding me, man. Look, the Republican Party is a how-to guide on how not to deal with the Middle East. Listening to the GOP for advice on the Middle East is like going to Bernie Madoff for financial advice. They have no grounds to say anything. The adults are having a conversation now. Republican Party, shush.